Hey YouTubers, Grimmy here, and this is the video review for the Power Rangers Legacy Dragonzord. As a follow-up to the Legacy Megazord, Bandai America has released a new version of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Dragonzord, which has a slew of new features and extra surprises. So why don't we just take a look and see how he turned out. Now, much like the Megazord, the Legacy Dragonzord has a box that greatly homages the original toy, which unfortunately I don't have the box for anymore. But yeah, this is a very close representation of that original box. Although there's no cutout for the Green Ranger, which if I remember right, the original Dragonzord had a cutout because it came with a Green Ranger 8-inch figure. But, you know, alas, this one does not include the Green Ranger figure. Oh well, it's, you know, gotta make sacrifices somewhere, I guess. But, yeah, the box is well done, has the golden Dragonzord name on there, with like the shiny Legacy logo above it, and you have the TV show logo on there. And much like the Megazord, has the blurb on the top right corner, top left corner, I'm sorry, and it's going to say metallic paint and die-cast parts in 3 languages. And if you look on this side, there's a little blurb here that says 11 inches articulated tail. And that's not a lie. That tail is huge and it is well articulated. But on the side you got the story, again in 3 languages, and the bio for the Dragonzord, or well, the stats for the Dragonzord. Which, yeah. And on the back, because the Legacy Megazord came out first, you actually get a look at the combined forms that this one has. And a nice look at the toy inside. You know what? Why look at a picture of a toy when you can look at the toy itself, right? So let's get into the figure. Now, this version of the Dragonzord has been desired and hoped for years, since 2010 when the new version of the Megazord came out. I think many people were thinking, are we going to get a Dragonzord to go with it? Well, it took them a while, but they finally came through with a new Dragonzord, and it was well worth the wait. This one is a quite detailed little piece of work, with a lot of paint apps and sculpted detail that match up with the show model a lot better than the original toy did, at least in the US. Well, as you can see, he's also quite long as far as the tail, which has and each segment has a ball joint to it, so you got quite a lot of articulation in that tail. In fact, that's probably the most articulation you got in the entire figure is in the tail, so enjoy it. But I'll get the articulation out of the way since I'm on it. You got some up and down movement in the arms, a little bit in the wrist, swivels at the wrist, which is a new feature that wasn't on the old one. You got some movement on the hips, only one forward, one back, and again, one forward and one back on the knees. And you got forward, back on the ankles, as well as a pivot, which is a nice touch. And I'm putting a lot of pressure on those ankles a bit, I guess. But yeah, all in all, he does have about the same amount of articulation as the original toy, maybe a little bit more. Oh yeah, and the mouth can open and close. Nom nom nom. But yeah, let's get a closer look at that paint job. As you can see, he has these nice metallic red eyes. A close his mouth a little bit. Well, actually, we'll open it so we can get a look at all. It has those nice little teeth in there. The chest is well done. Has the imaging on that was on the show, and a lot of sculpted detail to go with the paint, which is a real nice touch. The chest lights are not lights on this one, but actual just painted in a metallic red, much like the eyes, which is real good for a display piece. So I'm satisfied with that. Hands are done in a metallic silver paint, which is actually pretty common on the whole thing. On the side of the head, you can actually see some of the sculpted details and art style that this one has, which is really nice. And that art style is actually flowing down into the shoulders and on the waist. And he has a nice little Z belt buckle for Zoo Ranger from the Japanese series. And he also has the Dragonzord emblem on his knees, and it's actually sculpted in instead of just being a sticker, which is a nice touch. He also has a bigger one on his thighs, and as you can see, the tail even has some details on the sides of it, and it's done in that really nice shiny silver paint. And yeah, the feet are done nicely as well. There are some paint apps and features that we won't see until a little later, but yeah, all in all, this is really nice. He has interchangeable hands, so all you gotta do is pop off these hands here, and you get some more toy accurate fingers straight hands. And even with these ones, the fingers are individually molded. They're not articulated, but they are molded individually, which is really nice. And in case you haven't noticed, the other hands are more relaxed, more natural looking hands. Even though this is hardly a natural creature. So we'll just pop out, and I'll just pop up this one right quick. You can see there's just a little nub at the end, which enables you to just pop off the original and pop on the new one. Putting them on is a little trickier than taking them off, just because there's a hinge right here that can interfere with the pressure needed to put the hands on. But other than that, it works out pretty nicely. Now for a comparison, let's bring in the original Dragonzord. And interesting enough, these two, it's hard to say. I think this one might be a little bit bigger, but they almost look like the same size. I think this one's just got a little thicker build to it. But yeah, they actually are pretty close to similar sizes. Although when you look at the tails, that's another story. I'd say the new Dragonzord's tail is at least twice as long as the original one's, which is quite interesting, as the rest of his body is maybe a little bit smaller, if not the same size. But, you know, given that the Dragonzord's tail was pretty big on the show, I think that was a nice touch. And I do applaud Bandai for it. Although it's going to have some implications later on, which you'll see soon enough. But, we'll get him out of the way, and we'll bring in the other comparison, being the Legacy Megazord, which I'm sure you've seen these two together with on the Megazords review. But yeah, it's nice to have them together again. And what's real interesting is that the Dragonzord can combine with these Zords. And I think we're just going to start with just the combining him with the Mammoth, Saber-toothed Tiger, and Triceratops Zords. So let's bring them together. And now we got the Dragonzord in battle mode, and holy scrap, what is this guy compensating for? I mean, wow. Yeah, this is where the tail comes into play. Being that the tail is much larger, the power staff is also much larger. So, I mean, okay, I'll bring in the original's power staff first and foremost. And as you can see, while the staff is roughly the same height as up to the Dragonzord chest piece, maybe a little taller at that point, the drill bit is dwarfed by the new version. I mean, dang man, that is gigantic. I mean, as you can see, it's a lot taller than the Dragonzord is. I mean, wow. Okay, I know I'm getting into it a little too much, but yeah, this is where the tail really will either come into play as a burden or something great, depending on how big you want that staff to be. Another nice thing about the staff, since we're already talking about it, is that the way the handle's done. Instead of being a separate piece like the original, which was easily lost and broken and never couldn't hold the staff to save your life, this one has like a little peg coming out of the back where the battery cover would have been on the original, or around where the battery cover would have been. I think the battery cover was actually on the side, but yeah, you can pull out the little peg, which goes right into his hand, like so, and voila, he is actually holding on to the dragon staff. It's a miracle. Never thought I'd see the day. But yeah, let's get a good look at the Dragonzord himself. So you can see that he has a nice big visor on his face, and yeah, you can actually see the robot face actually has a mouth on it and a little jewel at the top, which is pretty nice. The chest piece actually forms the Dragon Ranger's emblem, like the Green Ranger's Power Coin emblem, which was always a nice touch. And on the bottoms of the Dragonzord feet, which are now the kneecaps, you got these big Z's, which is nice. And below you got the Legacy, Triceratops, and Saber-toothed Tiger. And you can see it, you got the Mastodon arms on there as well. But as a merged piece, this is a really nice one, and is pretty much more popular than the other combination mode for the Dragonzord and Megazord. And the Legacy version does the job real well with this. And this is a beautiful piece. I do love it. And the paint details are well done, as I've mentioned a couple times already. and the show accuracy is superb. And not to mention, the Dragonzord has more die-cast in it than the Megazord did. These shoulder pieces that are forming his chest, they're die-cast. This hip piece here, or the cod piece, that's die-cast on both sides. The feet are die-cast. So he is a heavy-duty guy, and he has got a lot of heft to him. You try picking this guy up, you'll feel his weight. But I guess we should get into a comparison with the original. So here is the Dragonzord in fighting mode. I'll put him with his staff. As you can see, the original is still bigger. Still bigger and bulkier, but yeah, I think the Legacy actually looks a lot better. You know, really has that nice streamlined look to it. So, yeah, that's actually a really well done figure. But there is one more combination. And this one gets all 6 together. So, let's do it. Let's get this going. And now we have the Mega Dragonzord, which is pretty much the Megazord, wearing a Dragonzord as a party hat. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. The Dragonzord is actually becoming a battle armor for the Megazord. Being larger shoulder pads with rocket launchers, and these the Z kneecaps actually being able to focus energy for a Mega Blast. At least that's how they explain it on the show. In person, it looks kind of ridiculous. I'm going to be honest with you. This is probably one of the least favorite modes of the Dragonzord and Megazord combinations. Most often people will prefer the Dragonzord in battle mode because that looks really awesome. Well, this one does not look so awesome unless you have it in Titanus. Which for some reason this guy riding another dinosaur like a chariot makes it better. And it actually works that way. Okay. But, yeah. This is okay. I mean, I think it did a good job of recreating the Mega Dragonzord effect from the TV series, but it's also the most flawed because all the die-cast on the Dragonzord plus all the die-cast on the Megazord makes this guy really top-heavy. I mean, the legs were sturdy enough to hold the Megazord itself without a problem, but yeah, all you need to do is give him a nice little pat on the back and yeah, he drops like a rock. Those leg joints just can't support it. And if you want, we'll do a little replay here. Just one sec. So once again, we're going to give you a nice big pat on the back and yeah, let that sink in. Okay, but aside from that obvious flaw, yeah, the Mega Dragonzord is actually a decent looking toy. I mean, if you want to display them all together in a way that looks decent and show accurate, until Titanus comes out, this would be it. Because in the Dragonzord with battle mode, you will have the red and pink, well, the Tyrannosaurus and pterodactyl dinosaurs hanging loose around it. Which is a shame, but you know, that's the way it goes. I mean, but this is a viable way to display it. I will say that much. But anyway, for comparison, let's bring in the vintage Mega Dragonzord. Try not to knock him over again. Let's get this out of the way, and these guys are pretty wide. And and this is the one mode where the Legacy Megazord, well, I don't know. No, yeah, they're both about this. The vintage Megazord's still bigger. Sometimes this Legacy Mega Dragonzord looks a little bit bigger, but it's just the Dragonzord feet looking bigger than on the smaller Legacy Megazord body. All the same, the proportions really do show on this one. The Dragonzord feet on the vintage Mega Dragonzord look a lot smaller than when you got the size ratio compared to the Legacy version, where it has these gigantic pontoons hanging off the sides of them. So yeah, there is a difference in the size scale, which can work, you know. Makes them look more massive, and really does bring out a nice bit of flair. And I'm just noticing that on the Legacy Mega Dragonzord, there's some nice paint details on the shoulders. That little bit of gold right under the Dragonzord shoulders, which is a nice touch. I mean, there's always a lot of nice hidden surprises, and unfortunately the vintage has lightning bolts, because that Dragonzord was an American vintage. Well, and you know, as much as I'd like to say buy American, in this case, Bandai America does not like to go show accurate. Which is unfortunate, but that's Bandai, you know. That's just, they try to keep everything different for countries. But, whatever. Still, I gotta compliment Bandai America for the work they did with the Dragonzord. They put a lot of love into that toy. And it shows every last form, feature, and paint app shows that there was a lot of love put into it. So I would highly recommend getting the Dragonzord. Even if you didn't get the Legacy Megazord, the Dragonzord itself can stand alone pretty well. And you can find him at Toys R Us. He should be hitting local Toys R Us is pretty solid now. So just check around. Happy hunting on that. He's about $80, 80 to 90, which is a steep price, but given how much he weighs and what you can do with him, especially if you have the Legacy Megazord, I think he's well worth it. But anyway, I do hope you have enjoyed this little review, and I will see you next time. So take care, have fun, and bye-bye.